Hi, this is Michael Buffer, and welcome to the BoxHard Podcast.
Hello, everyone. This is Mikey Garcia.
This the monster from the swamps, Regis Rougarou Program.
Hey, what's up? This is King Carlos Molina, former IBF world champ.
This is Michael, the Bounty Hunter, 2012 Olympian and your people's champ.
This is Charlie Edwards, flyweight champion of the world.
This is Fast Eddie Chambers, and you're listening to the BoxHard Podcast with my main man, Joey Coastman.
Hello everybody and welcome to episode 281 of the BoxHard Podcast. I am your host Joey Coastman. I'm joined as ever by the former heavyweight world title challenger, my brother from another mother, as they say, Mr. Fast Eddie Chambers. Eddie, how you doing, my man?
I'm good, my brother. How you feeling?
How'd you like that intro as well?
Oh, it was great. I like the brother from another. You know what I mean? I like it. It was nice.
There we have it. But like I say, this is episode 281. You should know by now how it goes. We're going to start with the review part. Let's delve into last week's action. Going to start here at the Spark Arena in Auckland, New Zealand. A heavyweight fight between Joseph Parker, former WBO heavyweight world champion. He was able to unanimously beat over 12 rounds Junior Farr, who is a former foe of his because Junior Farr holds a win over him in the amateurs. He was undefeated, 19-0 going in, but he lost his O there. A win for Joseph Parker in his 30th pro contest, now 28-2. It was for the vacant WBO Oriental heavyweight title. Obviously, Joseph Parker looking to get back in those WBO rankings. Also on the undercard, John Parker, the brother of Joseph Parker. He is now 6-0, a unanimous decision win for him over 4 rounds against Egalani Taito. He won absolutely every round there, John Parker, against the debutant. Moving out now to the Copper Box Arena in the Queen Elizabeth Olympic Park in Hackney Wick, London, United Kingdom. Over here, it was a bit of a shame, really, because the card just had so much bad luck from the off. It was supposed to be the card where we got to see Jamel Herring against Carl Frampton. Obviously, that fight fell through. Then we were going to get to see Leon Woodstock against Anthony Kakachi. Then Leon Woodstock, you know, he failed a test for corona on the week of the fight, a couple of days before the fight was set to take place. So that was off. That was the main event. And in the end, the chief support ended up getting elevated to the main event position. Casey Kademi, 8-0 going in. He's obviously trained by John Tandy. It was for his WBO European Super Flyweight title and the vacant IBF European Super Flyweight title. He got in against Ilyas Ahmed, who was 7-2. A majority decision over 10 rounds in the end for Ahmed. So Kademi loses his O, unfortunately. Reached out to John Tandy after the fight. Really felt for him, actually. It was a good fight. It was a good fight between two very hungry fighters. I think Ahmed, who I'd not seen before, was really, you know, on his game. He really came to fight. He definitely landed, you know, eye-catching shots, whereas Kademi's a guy who, you know, is very, very skillful. He will hit you with a lot of shots. He will move, things like that. And I just don't think the judges liked what he was doing, you know, because it was an interesting start to the fight, because I'd probably say it was like a round for Kademi, then a round for Ahmed, then a round for Kademi, then a round for Ahmed. It was that kind of back and forth type start. And then in the mid rounds, Ahmed, you know, he just fought better in the mid rounds, and he seemed to kind of run out of steam. And then Kademi came through at the end. He's got great footwork, Kademi. He is what I like to see in a lot of fighters that you don't really get to see in some of the bigger weights, some of the heavier weights, where, you know, he's got great footwork and he puts his punches together well, and just, I don't know, it's just a thing that little fighters can do. And he's a talented fighter, man. He's got a lot of skills, you could see that. And I thought he just nicked it, but yeah, the judges, I think, were remembering the eye-catching shots, which I think Ahmed probably had the better of that. But other than that, very, very saddened for John Tandy and his fighter there. But anyway, we must move on. On the undercard, Nathan Heaney with a win against Ryan Oliver on points over 10 rounds. Tommy Fury was back. He managed to get a KO in round 2 against Scott Williams, who, I've got to be honest, man, I know that, prospects, when they're coming through, especially guys like Tommy Fury, not much amateur background, not much amateur experience, but, they need to do a little bit better with finding guys, especially for big, I guess, like social media stars like Tommy Fury. He got in there with a guy who was 0-9, and he'd only had 48 hours notice, this guy as well, so it was never going to be a great fight. But anyway, the one thing that Tommy Fury did do is get him out of there in the second round, and this guy had only been stopped once in those 9 previous losses, so he's now 0-10 with 2 KO losses. Tommy Fury, like I say, 5-0. Yeah, good win for him. Sam Noakes as well with a win, a first round KO against the guy who was undefeated, Delmar Thomas, so that's good for Sam Noakes there. Moving out now to the Shrine Exposition Center in Los Angeles, California, USA. Over here, Anthony Durrell returned to the ring for the first time in quite a while. I think his first fight back after losing to David Benavidez, if I'm not mistaken. I really should check that because I don't want to be giving out false information. Yes, it was his first fight back since losing to Benavidez. He got in there with Kyrone Davis, who was 15-2, who, again, I hadn't really heard much about. He's got a loss to Patrick Day, obviously the late Patrick Day. And yeah, he got in there with Anthony Durrell, a man who has been a former world champion. You'd expect him to have too much for Kyrone Davis. It ended up in a split draw over 12 rounds, a non-title fight, split draw for Anthony Durrell. Moving out now to the Hard Rock Stadium in Miami, Florida, USA. Over here, Canelo, a win for him, now 55-1 with 2 draws. He was able to get Avni Yildirim out of there within 3 rounds. It was actually after the 3rd round because he retired on his stool in the corner. Avni Yildirim now 21-3. We all knew what was going to happen there. Canelo was way too good for his man. A defense of his WBC and WBA super middleweight world titles. Yildirim was down in the 3rd round and he was absolutely punch perfect, Canelo. I don't really want to go in too much depth with the analysis and stuff like that. He was just too good. Every single punch he threw and wanted to landed. Yildirim, I don't think, really touched Canelo at all, and it was just so one-sided. I expected a KO within 3 rounds. That's what happened, and it just was what it was. On to the next one very swiftly because they announced his next fight in the ring. And it's going to be against Billy Joe Saunders, which will take place on May the 8th. And that's unification as well. So that's obviously for the WBO title that Billy Joe Saunders has as well. So that's a great fight there. No complaints from me on that one at all. On the undercard of that, by the way, not the Canelo Saunders future event, but the undercard from the other night, McWilliams Arroyo. He was supposed to be fighting Julio Cesar Martinez, but he had to pull out, I think, with an injury or something. I think he got a hand injury whilst being in the bubble, which makes no sense at all, but not sure what happened there. He had to leave the bubble, and in stepped a late replacement, Abraham Rodriguez. So McWilliams Arroyo, I was looking forward to his fight, but he would have probably lost, but he ended up actually picking up a win, so good for him. A TKO in 5 rounds for him, and he also becomes the WBC interim world flyweight champion. Zhilei Zhang, oh my lord god, this fight is the most frustrating thing. You didn't see any of this, Eddie, I don't think, no?
I didn't even see it.
Okay.
Okay. Tell me what.
This, I'm going to really try to not get frustrated here, so let me take a deep breath first. Do you know what? Let me go on to the other undercard fights before I get onto this. A win for Diego Pacheco. He's now 11-0. A unanimous decision over 8 rounds against Rodolfo Gomez Jr. yeah, that's it for the undercard. That's the other fight. So here we go. Gilley Zhang, the 6'6" Chinese southpaw, silver medalist from the 2012 Olympics, got in there with Jerry Forrest, who was 26-4. Now, Jerry Forrest really managed to annoy me, and I'm going to explain why. So Jerry Forrest comes out, on the ring walk. This is quite bizarre already, so definitely listen up to this. He comes out on the ring walk. He he looked very confident walking in. He gets in. Then, Gilley Zhang comes out to the ring, gets in the other corner. Fight starts. And Jerry Forrest, who can box, he's not a bad fighter. One of his 4 losses came to Michael Hunter. The other one came to Carlos Takam. I don't know who the other two came to. I forgot right now. But he's not a mug. Anyway, he gets in there and he's boxing quite sharp. Now he's a big underdog, but Gilley Zhang is not that great. So I'm thinking, okay, there could be money to be made here on Jerry Forrest. So I put a small little bet down on Jerry Forrest to get the knockout. He's a big puncher. So anyway, Jerry Forrest. I'm not going to name the other boxer here, but I was talking with a boxer during the ring walk and all that, and I'm saying, hey, he looks confident. Hey, he looks quite sharp in round 1. Now, this boxer bet a significant amount of money on Jerry Forrest's last fight against Carlos Takam, in which he could have won that fight, but he didn't because he decided to not really throw any punches, and it was really frustrating to watch. So I put a bet down this time thinking he could maybe trouble Zhang. So anyway, I'm speaking to the same boxer again. I'm saying, hey man, he looks quite sharp. So he's going, okay, I'm going to go and put this bet on. So I'm like, hold on, don't put it on. He's just been dropped. So down he goes in the first round. He gets back up. He makes it through the round. Comes back out. Gets dropped in round 2. Gets back up. Goes back to the corner. Gets through the round. Comes out in round 3. Gets dropped in round 3. Gets back up. And I'm like, what the hell is going on here, right? I couldn't believe it. I could not believe what was going on. My money is just fading away in front of me, right? So, and let me just say, the first knockdown in the first round, it was a chopping left hand, which put Forrest down. Round 2, Forrest was down from a right hook right on the tip of his chin. Round 3 was down again, and it was early as well. In every round, he got put down early, and then when he got back up, he seemed to kind of wake up a little bit. But yeah, the third knockdown, that was, he got hit with 2 right hooks followed by a left hook to put him down. And he got back up and he actually stiffened the legs of Zhang in that round. And Zhang was starting to breathe very heavy in the third round after trying to get his man out of there. Now, round 4, Zhang won the round for me, but he was looking really tired. He was actually fighting in bursts. And I was thinking, there's a long way to go. Jerry Forrest, all of a sudden, looks like he's recuperated. There could be a big win on this. Like, it's now kind of seeming to turn. Round 5, Zhang is completely fighting in bursts. And I really mean bursts. He probably threw about 10 punches the whole round. He was holding. He looked absolutely spent in round 5. It's a 10-round fight. Round 6, a dreadful round. Both men hugging. Zhang kept leaning. They were threatening to take a point off of Zhang. Round 7, dreadful round. Jerry Forrest should have been putting it on Zhang at this point. It was almost like he was waiting for Zhang to get a second wind. I don't know what he was doing. Zhang, I was thinking, wow, he's been absolutely, what's the word? Out on his feet from round 3. Not due to punishment, but due to complete exhaustion. Now we're in round 8. Zhang gets cut and hurt. Forrest was not able to step on the gas. It was really frustrating watching it. He was there for the taking, Zhang, the undefeated, fighter trying to get a fight with Anthony Joshua. He was holding on for dear life. He was absolutely exhausted. And I couldn't believe that he's been tired at this point for 5 rounds consecutively. No second wind anywhere in sight. I just don't know when he's going to recover. Round 9. Jerry Forrest comes out. He's throwing punches with absolutely no power on them. He's letting Zhang, for me, off the hook badly. And I just couldn't believe it. I'm screaming, thinking, what are you doing? Just throw as many punches as you can for 30 seconds, you're going to knock him out. I swear to God. Look, I'm not a boxer, man, but I tell you now, if I could throw punches for 30 seconds without stopping or whatever. That's all it took to stop this guy. He had no defense. He was exhausted. Round 10, Jerry Forrest tries to go for it. He hurt Zhang several times, but he was so exhausted himself, and I don't know why, because both men were just hugging and walking around for 5 rounds. Like, I don't get it. And, you know, the stoppage was there for the taking. It was so frustrating. He kept allowing Zhang to hold. At one point, the referee took a point away from Zhang. You know, even the crowd, there was actually a crowd there. They were roaring because, you know, it was just, he was there ready to go. And Forrest was terrible. And then the bell goes, right? So everyone's like, oh my God, like he could have definitely knocked him out. This could have been the best comeback in history. This was like the heavyweight flipping, you know, Corrales Castillo. Like, this is it. But he didn't capitalize, Jerry Forrest. And then what does he do before they even announce the decision? He tells his corner men to get out the ring, and he does a backflip. It's like, what are you doing, man? How have you got the energy to do a backflip? You're a big, fat heavyweight. You could have threw some more punches in the fight, right? Anyway, they they announced the decision, and it ends in, I think one judge had it to Zhang, if I'm not mistaken, and the other judges, the other 2 judges had it to, or had it a draw. So it ends up being a majority draw. Now Jerry Forrest celebrates the draw, very quickly gets out the ring, runs back up the like the walkway, I guess, and there wasn't like a microphone on him. He didn't stick for an interview or anything like that, but there was like a microphone somewhere picking up the sound. And he was going, yeah, this is what I trained for. Yeah, I think he thought he won or something. And then you could hear him say, Anthony Joshua, I want Anthony Joshua next. And it's like, no one wants that fight for you next.
Are you serious?
It's like comedy. Like, it's unbelievable.
Yo, I can't even believe it.
And the boxer that I was communicating with, we were just laughing. Like, you know, he said I opened up my betting app to put a bet on, and I closed it so quickly after he got dropped. And then I said, did you just see him do that backflip? And he said, no. And I said, he just did a backflip. And then he goes, you're joking. I said, wind it back. He just did a flipping backflip, man. And then he's like, all right, I'm going to wind it back. And I took like a video of my DAZN feed and sent it to him. And he just couldn't believe what he was seeing. Like, what is this guy thinking?
Yo. That shit just makes me laugh, man.
Eddie, what would you do, man? What would you do if you had a fight? What would you do if you had a fight with someone and at the end of, 10 rounds, they did a backflip, a heavyweight?
I'd be like, first off, if you got the energy to do a damn backflip, your ass should have had the energy to put your hands on it more and finish the fight so you can have a win on your record with a name like that. That would have definitely got you an opportunity, maybe not to fight Anthony Joshua, but would have definitely got you a better opportunity, at least a money-making opportunity. Man, it's just you just don't know sometimes what's in fighters' heads, man. And it looked like he had a lot of crap in his. Trust me.
Yeah, and yeah, you're right. I mean, I just couldn't believe what I was seeing. But
when you think about the amount of the crazy things that guys do after fights when they think they've won, but I've seen guys celebrate draws before. You know what I mean? Yeah. Guys who were opponents. You know what I mean? They didn't expect to be in the fight, to be honest. And it's just to me, it's like that's not something to really cheer for. Now, granted, I understand you didn't expect to win, but that's not how you're supposed to carry yourself. You're supposed to be disappointed that you didn't win the fight. You're supposed to believe that you won, that you are going to win the fight, and then if the fight doesn't go your way, you should be upset, regardless of whether it's a draw or not. You would, like, for example, with me, when I fought Tomas, I would have taken a draw and been okay with it because I didn't expect to get a decision where I was at. but I'm not gonna be happy about it, especially since I think I win. You know, and that especially if I think I won. It's just craziness.
Yeah, it really was, and yeah, I just couldn't believe it. I mean, Jesus Christ, like, it was so frustrating watching it because anyone could have stopped this guy. Like, oh man. But I tweeted it and I was really annoyed, and Dave Coldwell, the trainer, came back to me and he said, like, he did try, to be fair. And I said, yeah, he did try, but how would you feel if you were training a fighter, a heavyweight, better example as well, who pretty much had an opponent who was there for the taking for probably 7 rounds in a row, and he didn't get him out of there. Then afterwards, he did a backflip right afterwards. How would you feel?
like you jerk off. You had all the energy in the world after the fight was over to do a backflip, but no energy during the course of the fight to take advantage of the opportunity. Even if you did have energy, like, you still shouldn't have done the backflip, especially after that performance. No, yeah. That would have made me upset. I ain't gonna lie, as a trainer.
Well, anyway, there we have it. That is the review part. That's come to a close. The final thing to do is to welcome our sole guest on this week's podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the undefeated welterweight prospect. It is, of course, Mr. Sam Gilley. Sam, welcome to the show, my man.
Thanks for having me, mate.
My pleasure, Sam. It really is. So it's the first time you've been on. I've been paying close attention to you for quite a while. If I cast my memory back, I want to say the first time I seen you in person was just before I think you boxed Daniel Bazzo on a Haymaker card. I think you were correct.
That was a while ago.
Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't you hit some pads in David Hayes' gym on the week of the fight or something like that?
Yes, I did. Yeah.
There you go. I was there, and I remember sort of seeing you on the pads and thinking to myself, out of all the other guys that were also doing that, I thought to myself, I quite like the look of this guy. I was there on the weekend, and I saw you, beat Bazzo, and that was it for me. I thought, right, okay, I'm going to keep an eye on this guy. So I always felt you were one to watch. Yeah, so like I said, I was at that fight against Bazzo. I was also at your fight against Sam Amidi at the O2. And I was also at your fight against Nathan Hardy. Let me ask you, Sam, what has been your toughest...
You've had 3 stinkers there, blimey.
And I'm still impressed, mate, so don't worry.
Yeah. God, dear, they're 3 of my worst performances. Jesus.
I've stopped coming lately, so you've been doing all right.
I perform well when you're not there.
What's been your toughest one so far?
Curtis Felix by a mile. But that was the one that I learned most in. Do you know what? My debut was quite hard as well.
Yeah.
I can't remember what was his name? Rudolph, wasn't it? I think he was about 5'2". He was an absolute nightmare. Yeah. But yeah, Curtis Felix was my hardest test so far by a mile.
Yeah, okay. And, you've boxed the usual suspects, the likes of Jean Balog, the ever so tough William Warburton. What was it like boxing William Warburton, man?
The best way, do you know what? I've said this a few times. The best way to describe that is just put a pair of gloves on and just punch the wall, because that is what it's like with him. You're hitting him and I've got to avert him, and he flicks the jab back and slips off to the side, and you think, man, how is this geezer still standing up? And he just doesn't even wince, and he's quite hard to pin down as well.
Yeah.
So he puts his left foot. He drops down onto his left foot and puts his left shoulder in front of his chin, and then brings his back foot round and spins off, and it's quite unusual, but it gets him out of the way a lot of the time. And I mean, I've seen him in other fights, and I've seen him be hit really hard, especially to the body, and it just doesn't seem to affect him.
Yeah, I've seen him upset a couple of prospects there before. But one of your best career wins, if I'm getting my measuring stick out, is against Fernando Valencia, when you put him away in just 2, quicker than anyone has ever done it. And, he's fought a long list of names: Jack Rafferty, Samuel Antwi, Tyrone Nurse, Chris Congo, Tamuka Mucha, Shaq Day, Bradley Skeet. None of them did what you did. Am I right in saying, do you agree, that's probably one of your best ones there?
Yeah, that was that was a good performance. To be fair, I don't think back on that one too much, obviously, really. But yeah, thinking about it in that sense, yeah, I mean, we knew he was we knew he was a tough kid, and not a lot of people looked him out there. And the only one that had was Skeet, and I think he done it in 3, if I'm right.
Yeah, you're right.
And but when he went over, yeah, it was. But I think that shows when I'm not trying to knock someone out, it comes a lot quicker because I'm very heavy-handed. But I know that, and sometimes I try a little bit too hard to land the bigger shots. And that fight, where I knew he was tough, I just thought he was gonna it'd last all night, sort of thing. So, and then I relaxed and clipped him with a right hand and shut him down, and the ref waved it off. So yeah, that was a good win actually.
Yeah, it's a really good one. And let's get on to that latest win. You last boxed a year ago this week against Curtis Felix Jr. for the vacant Southern Area title. It was the first time you'd been past 6 rounds. Tell me about that fight. Obviously, you had him down in the final round, but you got the win on the end.
Yeah.
In the end on points.
Yeah, I mean that was it was a night of a lot of firsts for me. I mean, it was the first time I'd actually been down at 147. I know I'd done like 149 and stuff like that to get myself around there, but with that win with Valencia, MTK then signed me and said, right, we'll do you day before weigh-ins because that's what I needed to get down to the weight and do it properly. And that was the first time, obviously, I'd done at the actual limit and I'd done it really easy. And then it was the first time doing 10 rounds, first time in a title fight. It was so, I mean, it was first time for me being co-main events. It was the first time I was actually in the ring when it was a packed house. Because like if you remember when I boxed at the O2, I think there was about 150 people in there, and 149 of them were my friends and family. So it was a big night for me. And I mean, the fight. I mean, I learnt more in them 10 rounds with Felix than I did through the other 10 fights. But he I always knew I had the power to hurt him. Like I said about Valencia, and I wobbled him up in the 3rd round, I think it was. I hit him with a left hook, and his knees went. And I thought, next time I touch him, he's going to go. And that slowed me down a little bit in the middle rounds. And his work rate and his reactions, it was working a little bit more in his favour. But then Rod got in my ear and got me back to boxing. And then again, once I sat and thought, this is going to points, and I relaxed, then I got him. But I mean, for him to get through that 10th round, he must have dug somewhere deep. I mean, I don't think you'll ever see him box that well again. But yeah, that's been my favourite night so far.
Yeah, and for good reason. We're going to get onto your next fight in just a minute, but what's the pandemic been like for you? Obviously, you haven't boxed in that time. I'm guessing you're not a full-time pro. Did you have to go back to work?
No, I am a full-time pro.
Oh, nice.
And well, I mean, lockdown's been hard. I mean, the fact that it's been a year since that last fight is just it's mental. Like the fact we've dropped a year. I mean, I could have defended the Southern Area and had 2 more minimum fights by now. So, but I mean, everything happens for a reason, and I've been in the gym the whole time. Luckily, my sponsors have stuck by me and helped me out. I mean, we've just been ticking over. I mean, Rod's been getting me over the course of the year. He's been getting me really tough sparring, so that's kept me switched on and kept me focusing on things. Because I mean, with the likes of Josh Taylor and stuff like and the boys down the Matchroom gym, he's had me in there quite regular, and that keeps you switched on. Because you know, if you don't stick to your training for the week, you're going to get an idea when you go down there. So Rod done really well with that, and we was towards the start of the year, it was a little bit like, all right, we'll wait for crowds to come back. But then I think after about July time, when we realised they weren't going to be back for some time, we started getting we got back in the gym properly, like full on dieting and everything, and we got offered a few things, but it wasn't right for us. It was very short notice, and so we was patient. And I mean, the patience meant we didn't box for a year, but the patience has paid off. There's now the perfect fight has been offered to us for March 26th.
Yeah, and you know, it's a good situation you're in there to not have to go back and do something else. Last week we had Gavin McDonnell on the show, and obviously, you know, his twin brother Jamie McDonnell. So yeah. Gavin is former European champion, boxed for the world title twice. Jamie McDonnell, I think, was he a 2-weight or 2-time world champion? They went back to plastering. It's been wild, man.
Do you know what? Saying that for 2 weeks, I worked at I think it was literally a month after the fight, literally, because I've got a 1-bedroom flat, and sitting in here was just doing my head in. So I went and done a couple of weeks landscaping with my old firm, and then I sat at one of my other sponsors, London Recycling. I went and I went there with, but that was only for like 3 weeks. But then, and apart from that, I was just training. Yeah, I completely forgot I'd done that, to be fair.
No, that's good stuff, man. And talking about the training, talking about the sparring, you mentioned there a couple. Well, it sounded like you'd done some rounds with Josh Taylor. What other names have you been in there with, especially at the Matchroom gym? Because that can get quite lively down there, especially with the welterweights and stuff that go down there.
Yeah, it is. I mean, every spar down there it feels like a fight. It definitely is a fast-paced spar down there. But I was with Josh Taylor for twice in Harlow before his last fight. I've been in with David Avanesian. I've been in with Kell Brook. Been in with Ted Cheeseman, Conor Benn, John Ryder. So it's a good list of names that I've been in with, and although not getting out in the public eye and fighting, I've still been working on my trade and learning things off all these fighters that are at elite level. So it's been good for me.
That's a great bunch of names there. And let's get on to your next fight now. It's been penciled in for March 26th at the Copper Box against Danny Ball. Tell me what you know about Danny.
Well, I know he's WBC silver international champion. That's about as much as I knew about him until I got the phone call. Mm-hmm. And then obviously we've watched a little bit of him. Rod does the sort of breakdown and stuff like that, and he watches a few videos. I've watched his win against Cartwright and the draw against Casey Benjamin, and we've just picked a few positives, few negatives, and we're just building around that, really. I mean, he's a good enough kid. Seems a nice enough lad, but I mean, it ain't going to change the result on March 26th.
Yeah, and it's a fight I'm really looking forward to. Once again, we get to see 2 undefeated guys clash, especially at welterweight, which is just such a massive division now, Obviously, there's so many names domestically at welterweight, Sam, and we don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but is there a bunch of guys that you sort of want to be in the mix with in the not so distant future? Anyone you want to name?
100%. Well, obviously, listen, I've got to get this. I've got to go and win this fight first. Not jumping ahead, like you say, or nothing like that. But of course, I've got to have one eye on Jenkins Usman. I mean, that British title. I mean, that's what. If you speak to any lad in that welterweight division, they're going to be interested in that fight, in that title, because I mean, it's the best belt in British boxing, isn't it? So it's of course I'm going to have my eye on that, but. Yeah, that would be one for the not too distant future that I'd love.
Yeah, and also I really like the McKinson Congo fight. That's a brilliant one as well. I really like that.
Do you know what? I was sparred. That's another person I've been sparring with. I went down to Portsmouth and sparred Mikey a couple of weeks ago, and he's looking really good. He's looking sharp. But when that got announced, I was quite surprised that both of them had taken it. To be fair, so fair play to both of them. But that'll be a really, really good fight.
Yeah. And
I've sparred both lads, and the mix of styles would be quite interesting. To be fair, but I'll definitely be sitting there watching that. That'd be good.
Now you've dropped yourself in it. You sparred them both. Who's going to win?
Do you know what? Listen, it's a gentleman's sport. I can't go and shout out who I reckon because of certain reasons, but I know who I think is going to win. But it's definitely not clear cut in my eyes. Do you know what I mean? I think both of them are good lads, and it's going to be an entertaining fight.
Yeah, really looking forward to that as well. Like I say, the welterweight division on fire domestically. And just before we let you go, Sam, if you want to the floor is yours. If you want to thank any sponsors, you want to thank any family, friends, whoever you want to give a shout to, the microphone's yours. Take it away.
Oh, top man. Well, first of all, my sponsors, they've stuck by me for so long through this lockdown. So thank you to Home Glaze, Trendy Landscapes, Kitchens by Guy, Well Hydrate, James Farrett, Dirty South, Wendy Gray Handmade, Dan, and Rod Julian, because he pulled me out of doing landscaping, and he's given me the opportunity to live my dream. So I've just got to go and pay him back on March 26th.
And just finally, Sam, if you want to give out your social media handles, where can people follow you, my friend? You've got to give them that.
Yes, Sam Gilley Boxing on Twitter, and just Sam Gilley on Facebook and Instagram.
Wicked. All right, listen, Sam, it's been great having you on. I'm really pleased we squeezed you in and to enable our listeners to hear you out, and hopefully they can all jump on the bandwagon that, for me, is going very, very far in this sport. Thanks for your time, my friend.
Thanks very much, mate. Appreciate it.
Okay, now it's time for part 2 on this week's show. We are going to go to the news as ever, and we mentioned in part 1 there about the Canelo-Saunders fight. That's been penciled in for May the 8th. No venue just yet, but that's one of the fights that's been announced. The other fight, there's only one other fight that's been announced. Well, I don't think it's been officially announced, but it's certainly looking like it's going to happen. And if there's any other news, then I'll get onto it at the very end. We're recording this quite early on in the week. But as it stands, there's one fight that has been heavily talked about, Eddie, for April the 24th. It's looking like Andy Ruiz will be coming back to the ring against Chris Arreola.
What?
Yep.
Interesting. I mean, look, don't get it twisted. We already know what's going to happen. But the reality of it is that does sound like an appetizing type of fight. I mean, I know that Andy's like licking his chops like, yeah, this is going to be a good night for me. But, I mean, hey, you never know. Chris Arreola hasn't been around for a while. Maybe he got some rest. Maybe he's back at some degree of, I guess you want to say 100% and ready to compete. But I mean, I don't know at this stage in his career just what he's going to have, especially for a guy like Andy Ruiz. But it might be exciting for as long as it lasts.
Yeah, and I'm really excited to see how Andy Ruiz looks, actually, because he's linked up with Canelo's training team, with Eddie Reynoso. And look how Oscar Valdez looked the other week. Look how Canelo looked last week. And it'll be interesting to see how Ruiz looks. Speaking of Canelo, actually, there's something that I don't think I've ever shared on the podcast before. I actually had not a run-in, that'd be the wrong word, but I managed to basically get up close to Canelo, which is a very hard task. When he came over to the UK to fight Liam Smith, I went to the press conference and all that, and he kind of got ushered off into this room, and then I went and stood outside the room, and then he came out the room with all these Mexican people, and at this point he really didn't speak any English, so I wanted him to sign a glove for me. Now he came out of this room, and then I'm kind of saying Canelo, and I'm saying like, can you sign this glove or whatever? And he's looking at me like, what on earth are you saying? I don't understand a thing you're saying. And then basically I showed him the pen and the glove, and then he signed it. And he really, it's one of my most treasured possessions, actually. He signed it, El Canelo. Really, really, good to get that, because it's such a rare thing. He doesn't really seem to sign many gloves. And I think I might have even given him a bit of Spanish as he was walking off. I think I might have just said buena suerte, like good luck. And I think he actually turned around in English and just said thank you. Like, he must have thought, come on, man, like, don't speak Spanish again because it doesn't suit you.
No. A lot of times, Joe, they respect that you try to actually learn their language, because a lot of times, like with American people or, just English-speaking people, it's not really something that we really do a lot. So, I've spent a lot of time around Spanish people, and they really respect the fact that you even try, if you even try to speak the language some, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I think being a Brit, we've all kind of gone on holiday to Spain at one point and tried to order something in a Spanish accent, and you just go, one portion of patatas, and they just go, do you want a portion of chips with ketchup, yeah? They just spit, they're like, come on, idiot. Like, I don't know if he was doing that, but listen, if he was doing that, then good job I didn't realise at the time, because I'd have had to take him out there and then. You know what I'm saying? Anyway. Hey, he can understand me now. Let me I'm sorry, Camilla. He can understand me now. Anyway, moving on to the preview part. We're going to start here later tonight, Thursday the 4th of March at the Municipal Boxing Gym in Puerto Rico. Over here we get to see Sergey Bohachuk. Eddie, he defends his WBC Continental America's Super Welterweight title against Brandon Adams of California. Brandon Adams, in his most recent loss, went 12 rounds with Jamal Charlo, which many people don't manage to do. He got stopped in 2 rounds by John Thompson back in 2015, and his other loss came to Willie Monroe Jr. Over 10 rounds unanimously. He lost that one back in 2014, but he's a decent fighter. The reason I like this is if you go 12 rounds with Jamal Charlo in 2019, that tells me you're quite durable. And he's going to need to be quite durable because he's getting in with a guy who has a 100% knockout ratio. 18-0 with 18 KOs. The Ukrainian based in Los Angeles, California. He is definitely one to watch, Sergey Bohachuk. Moving out now to the H Arena in Nantes, France. Over here, Tony Yoka, the Olympic gold medalist from 2016. He is 9-0. He fights for the vacant EBU European Union heavyweight title against Belgium's Joe Dzeko, who boasts a record of 17-2 with a draw. I didn't know this, but apparently Joe Dzeko lives in Essex. I did not know that. Anyway, Essex, UK. But yeah, that'll be quite interesting. Well, it won't be really. He should beat him quite easy. And how about this for couple goals, Eddie? Tony Yoka is topping the bill. His wife is on the undercard. She fights for the IBO World Female Lightweight title. So that is couple goals, man. Undefeated. Undefeated. I think she won a medal in the Olympics as well. But that's cool, man.
That is very cool. I mean, when you look at stuff like that, it just makes you think like, damn, would it be nice to have that? But I can't complain about what my wife is doing, so it's nice.
But no, she is. She's quite a good fighter as well. She's not. I mean, she won the gold medal in the 2016 Olympic Games, actually. So she's not a bad fighter. She actually beat Katie Taylor to go into the finals, and then she beat the Russian in the final. So she's really good. So that's a serious power couple, them two, really, in more ways than one. Where else will we go next? Let's go to the Dort Federal Event Center in Flint, Michigan, USA. Over here, topping the bill, Clarissa Shields, 10-0. She defends her WBC, IBF, WBO, and she doesn't have the IBF. My apologies. She's got the WBC, WBO, and WBA. Female super welterweight titles. She gets in against the IBF champion, so whoever wins this fight becomes undisputed at 154, and her opponent is the Canadian Marie-Eve Dicaire, who is 17-0. She has 0 knockouts, but she is a really good fighter, so no complaints from me on that one. All the best to Clarissa Shields, who I'm a big fan of. You know, for those that don't know, well, you must know, we sung a song together at one point, but it seems to be very difficult to get her back on the show. I don't know what's happened with her. Haven't heard from her in quite a while. Maybe she saw me in the corner of her opponent in her last fight. I don't know. Moving now to the Saturday. On Saturday in the Intercontinental Miami in Florida. Just one fight to mention over here. Alexander Ustinov, 36-4. He's boxing in the States against Terrell Jamal Woods, who's 24-47 with 8 draws. Yeah, that's it for that one. I think there's a fight midweek next week. Let me just quickly check that, and that'll be the final fight to go over. I think it's on the Wednesday, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, just one fight to mention. I think it is, I want to say it's a Mayweather promotion show. I'm not sure. I think actually Lou DiBella is promoting it. It's on Showtime. Brandon Lee, he's definitely one to keep an eye out for. He is 21-0 with 19 KOs. He's only 21 years of age. He gets in against Samuel Taya, who is 17-3 with a draw. He's never been stopped, so that could be quite interesting. He is from Liberia, but he lives in Philadelphia. His other losses came to Trayshawn Wiggins, Montana Love, and someone else. Yeah, that would be quite interesting. Just a name there, you know, for the prospects. Brandon Lee, certainly one to look out for, looking to make it 22-0 with 20 KOs, should he become the first man to stop Samuel Taya. But anyway, that is it for all of the show now. That is it for... Oh, another vibration just before we wrap it up, Eddie. Thanks for that, man.
Sorry about that.
It's all good. That is it for the review part. We did that in part 1. We welcomed our sole guest. That is it for the news and the previewing. The final thing to do is to come in with the outro, which I'll do in a few seconds. Okay, and this wraps up episode 281 of the BoxHard Podcast. I've been your host, Joey Coastman. Eddie Chambers has been with me for the duration of the show. A massive thank you to our sole guest on this week's podcast, the undefeated welterweight prospect Sam Gilley. There has been some news break whilst we've been recording the show. Gavin McDonald's fight against Andoni Gargo for the European title has now been pushed back to April 23rd, something to do with the travel restrictions and stuff like that in Spain. Chantel Cameron has been forced out of her scheduled fight against Melissa Hernandez due to an injury. I think they're looking at a date in the future to sometime reschedule that fight. All the best to Chantel there. And finally, one of my absolute favourite fights to be made in boxing is happening for May 22nd in Las Vegas. It's for all the belts at super lightweight. The winner is simply the undisputed champion at 140. Josh Taylor versus Jose Ramirez. Somebody's O must go. And the winner takes 4 belts back home. All 4 belts, all 4 world titles. I absolutely cannot wait for that date there. But that's about everything from myself. Thank you all for listening. Enjoy your weekends, people. Stay safe, and we shall see you all again next week.